If you flip it, you say, let's sculpt ourselves to become the best versions of ourselves. You've only got what you actually have physically, mentally, as a human yourself, right? So you have to use what you've got to the best of your ability and to sculpt yourself to become that ideal person of yourself.
And he's here. He is here. Cristiano has entered the building. Welcome, wherever you are, to the Old Trafford Theatre.
Yes, guys, welcome to our first episode of the Sculpted podcast. I'm buzzing to be here, personally. I mean, it's good to meet Charlie in person finally, and yeah, it's going to be good. It's a good journey, and I'm keen to get started.
Yeah, I can't wait, Nick. It's been a long time coming. We've obviously spoke for a while, and the way we connected is something special and unique in itself. But
definitely,
today's episode, guys, is going to be, what is the Sculpted podcast? What does Sculpted mean? What does it mean to sculpt your life? What does it mean to sculpt who you are? And Nick, I think you're no better person to ask that question to you. What is the Sculpted podcast?
Yeah, so Sculpted, it's something that I think a lot of people these days don't pay enough attention to, and everyone thinks that it's about grinding 24/7. You got to be grinding because that's the way you got to get results. And don't get me wrong, that message is inherently right. I think that's a good message, but if you think about it, right, if you're grinding for 24 hours a day, every single minute, you're just grinding, what are you left with at the end? You're just left with dust, right? And this is something that a lot of people that are similar to us would understand, that it's not just about grinding, it's actually about sculpting. And something that I try and do personally is I try and sculpt myself every single day, because at the end of the day, if I am just grinding, as I said, you're just left with dust. But if I'm sculpting myself, at the end of the day, I'm looking 1% better than I was the day before. That could be the way I ate. That could be the way I trained. That could be the mental stuff that I do. So every single day, it's just refining yourself to become the best version of yourself, rather than tearing yourself down and you're left with dust. And I think that the message these days is that you have to just be constantly grinding. And not that that's a bad thing. I don't disagree with it. But if you're just waking up at 6 a.m., going to bed at 10 p.m., I would call, a lot of people would say you're on your grind, right? Okay, yeah, you probably are on your grind, but sometimes you're actually doing yourself more harm than good. And that's still something that I'm trying to learn. I'm still trying to sculpt myself on a daily way, every single day, refining it, making it better and whatnot. But it's this principle of grinding, I think it's got to change to being you're sculpting yourself. And I think that you probably have a similar kind of philosophy on that.
Yeah, I do, definitely. I think the question you need to ask yourself is, what are you grinding for?
Yeah.
I think there is a reason for everything. What are you working hard towards? Where are you trying to go? And I think you need to analyze your life in that certain way, in sort of every aspect of your life. Otherwise, it won't turn out the exactly a way you imagine it. So I think that's key. Most importantly, like you're saying, this whole grind culture, if you like, stems from possibly a man I idolize, and I'm sure you look up to him as well, Kobe Bryant, and what he said in terms of waking up at 4 a.m. to train for 2 hours and then rest and then train again, and he'll fit 4 to 5 sessions a day, and over time it will compound and it will make him the better basketball player, the better athlete compared to his opposition. However, this can also have a negative effect, and everything comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay the cost for your dreams, the cost for success?
Yeah.
That is the question you need to ask yourself. And if you're on this journey to your pursuit of human potential, greatness, whatever you're trying to achieve within your life, then this podcast is for you.
Yeah.
Sculpt is about, like we were saying, sculpting your life to the ideal version, the ideal sculpture that you see in your mind, the vision you see for yourself. So yeah, guys, like Nick was saying, it's important we continue to develop day by day and sculpt ourselves. And whether you're on a journey within your career and business, or your own personal battles or challenges you're facing within any area of life, whether that's sport, football, whatever area. We're obviously footballers and we're speaking through that point of view.
Yeah.
But also we're a big advocate of learning all different areas of...
It's whatever pursuit you want to do. And
Yeah.
for everyone wants to be the best, right? Like, it's just not many people actually do what it takes to become the best. And that's kind of what Sculpted is, because, yeah, you've got this message of you've got to grind, right? If you flip it, you say, let's sculpt ourselves to become the best versions of ourselves. You've only got what you actually have physically, mentally, as a human yourself, right? So you have to use what you've got to the best of your ability and to sculpt yourself to become that ideal person of yourself. And touching on the thing that you said about Kobe Bryant, right? I love Kobe Bryant. And I used to watch all of his videos, and I'll play a video of that exact clip of Kobe Bryant telling everyone how he was training 4 times a day. He was getting 4 hours of sleep. He was waking up at 4 a.m., doing the training sessions.
So if you get up at 10 in the morning, train at 11, right? 12, say 12, train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8, right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, do it again, right? Those are 2 sessions. Right now, imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4, 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11, right? Relax, and all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4, and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? And so now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in the summer, they're never going to catch up.
Now, that's not a bad message, but if you actually dissect it, and he talks about this actually later on in his career, because those videos are actually quite old. And he talks about this, even Tim Grover talks about it in his books, and he says that was Kobe's biggest weakness. It was hindrance. But if he didn't have that, he wouldn't be where he is today. So it's not necessarily a bad thing going through a phase in your life where you're just grinding. Don't get me wrong, that's not a bad thing. But sculpting is realizing that that's not the best way of doing it. So then you readjust your schedule, your habits, everything like that, so that you become better for it.
It's refining at the end of the day, like retuning and your values, going back to that. You might fall off track and you might realize maybe this isn't the best way, but who knows? Like, who really knows? You're not going to know until you go all in.
Exactly.
On one way. You can't half do it.
Yeah, that's really important thing.
This is the message me and Nick have. You can't half do something. You have to truly commit. Like, if this is your dream, if this is your ambition, if you guys want a better family, if you guys want a better relationship with your wife, your spouse, whoever it may be, you have to fully commit.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no 2 ways about it. And
definitely.
I think that kind of wraps up. We'll keep it short and sweet for the first episode.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to add, Nick?
Well, I was just thinking maybe we can just give 3 kind of ways that we sculpt ourselves on a daily basis. And I think that's probably just a good way to, because obviously Sculpted for us, it means something different to what the audience automatically thinks. They think of literally just a sculpture. Like old mates just standing there, chiseling away at something, and then it's got a sculpture. We're actually sculpting ourselves on a daily basis. So Charlie, if you give me 3 ways that you sculpt yourself on a daily basis.
So I would say the first one, we're not sponsored. This podcast isn't sponsored by Whoop yet. However, I'm a big advocate for the Whoop band. And this is something me and Nick are in a group with the 10 of us, and we're big on our sleep and in terms of getting the right recovery, making sure our heart rate's low, we don't have too much stress, and we track our sleep on a day-to-day basis. And that's one way I sculpt myself. Yeah,
that's it. The key is you're sculpting yourself because sleep is going to be beneficial for multiple things.
And we'll come on to that in other later episodes. But sleep is basically the foundation for everything.
Yeah.
Another way is obviously my diet. I make sure that's very clean and I'm not having too many sugars and making sure my calories aren't too high, because then I wouldn't be able to perform on the pitch, and excess weight on my body fat means I'm slower on the pitch, and that's another way.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Nick?
So for me, my mental skills, every single day, I'm refining myself to become a better footballer. With maybe it's dealing with opinions, right? So if someone says, I mean, most of the opinions that I find, I make up myself. I've actually never been told specifically by someone that I'm shit, but I make it up in my head saying that, oh, he thinks I'm shit. So I'll dissect that on my iPad, and we've gone through this before, and these mental practices that I have, that's just an example. There's many exercises that I do every 2 days. I do these mental exercises. That's the main way that I've sculpted myself throughout time, because also with these, it's reassessment. So I'm reassessing myself. I'm thinking, okay, so for example, in my life right now, what am I doing with football? What am I doing with school? I mean, I finished school now, but all these different parts of my life, I'm always reevaluating and trying to make what I'm doing in that moment better by 1%. And that's, I think, a massive thing, because sculpting, you're always you're just refining your practices. And sometimes you're taking a step in the wrong direction, but that's not a bad thing. You got to take that step in the wrong direction to realize that that's not the right direction to go down. And like you were saying, you have to do it with 100% conviction, because if I'm going with it at 50%, then I never knew if it was right or not. You have to know that it's completely wrong or right. And I think that's the biggest way I sculpt myself. Another way is training. Now, my training sessions, you can go onto my LinkedIn account and you can look at my training sessions from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They're all there. I wasn't as consistent as I am now. I upload every single day on LinkedIn. I've been doing it for 2 years now, but you can see in lockdown how I was sculpting myself. Every single session has a purpose. It's consistency. It's refining of my practices. And there I'm sculpting myself, because every training session I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to get better at this specific thing. I'm not just going to training to train. I used to do that. I used to just train to train. Again, it's not a bad thing. You can start off doing that, but you have to realize that, okay, I'm going to do this, but I need to get better at it. So I'm going to have goals. I'm going to think, okay, when I pass the ball, I'm going to hit the ball with the inside of my foot rather than, I mean, I'm not going to do this realistically, but I'm not going to pass the ball with the outside of my foot. But that's just an example how you can refine your practices. And yeah, that's another way. Like, I sculpt myself in that way. And then also, I'd say learning from others is a massive thing. Like with Kobe Bryant, I learned so much from Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And not to say that it's wrong, but if I didn't learn that from Kobe Bryant, I don't think I'd be where I am today.
I think that's key. I think mentors and having the right people around you. For me, I've got my dad.
Yeah.
I've got certain individuals in my life that I can trust and I can go to for advice, and will tell me the truth. I think that's key.
Yeah.
Accountability when you're not doing so good.
Yeah.
When you're not performing. When they see a roadblock happening or a pitfall that you can't see or they've experienced in the past, and they possibly can give you a bit of advice: stay away from this, don't do this. Whether you choose to do that is up to you. Everything is down to yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think mentors is another way for myself as well.
Yeah. I completely agree. And also, you having a mentor personally, and also, I guess, like almost online. It's like
I think there's no reason why you can't have different role models online. Because
exactly. Yeah.
Nick and I both believe that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And okay, maybe you don't have such a social life where you're spending time with lots of people. Well, how about make the 5 people you spend the most time around, when you're watching YouTube, when you're in your downtime, search up a guy called Jim Rohn, famous businessman, speaker. He's great for your mind, and he's a big believer in what you feed into your mind is your mental library. And if you're feeding yourself, and if you're putting fertilizer in your mind and you have weeds in your mind, then it's not going to do any harm. You need to have positive things going into your mind, and be careful of what you're reading.
Yeah.
And obviously people have their own, like Kobe Bryant, whether it be you're listening to Ronaldo's tips or whether you're listening to Tony Robbins or Eric Thomas. Like, these people are all feeding good things into your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think also maybe it's the last takeaway for people who are listening. Something that you can do right now is think about, you can write this down even. I actually have this exact document on my iPad, and it's writing down your circle of people who influence you, right? And
I did this yesterday.
yeah. So going through the 5 most influential people around you, right? If I was to think about it, I could probably name a few people who, I wouldn't say that I have 5, but I've had 5, right? But now I don't speak to those people for a reason.
Okay.
And those people might not realize it, but I've got that written down that I'm not speaking to these people for certain reasons, or I'm not associating. I mean, obviously it's a little bit cutthroat, right? But if I'm not, it's very selfish.
Because you don't want to be like them. At the end of the day, you aspire to be a man of high value, a man of success, your ambitions, your goals. And I think if you're spending people around people with you actually don't want to be like, then why are you doing it? Spend people at the time you aspire to be like, and you admire, and you see going somewhere and achieving something or have a purpose in their life.
100%.
And I think that's very clear. So evaluate the people you're spending the time around and write that down.
And like, for example, if you don't have 5 people, I didn't have 5 people when I was doing this, and you know what I did? I spoke to Charlie, and that's coming soon, next episode. So we'll talk about that later, but that's like an example of how I used my, I guess, resources to make my situation better off for me. And then also I feel like Charlie and I having a good relationship, we can just bring each other up. We can be accountable. I mean, we've got each other on Whoop. We know when someone's not doing better, we can push each other.
And this is like the first time we've ever met. Like probably we're speaking, and this is the first hour we've actually spoke to each other in person. Other than that, it's literally just been a few FaceTime calls here and there, and a few messages. But
when I was in London last time as well, I didn't even know you.
Exactly.
And that was literally, only 2 months ago.
Yeah, we haven't known each other for like not very long.
Yeah.
But I think that will wrap it up today.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I think they've got the message of what we're about, what Sculpted is about. And we want to bring you on this journey, guys. And we hope you feel inspired to take action in your life. That's the main message we want to share. It's all good listening to this, but if you're not taking action, then there's really no point. So take action in your life, take accountability, and write down the 5 people you spend the most time around. And evaluate,
reassess, do whatever you need to do. If they're not benefiting you, don't necessarily disassociate.
If they're not benefiting you, if the people you're spending the 5 people you spend the most time around, if they're not benefiting you, kick them out. Simple as that.
Okay, that's the better way of saying
your life is too precious to I don't know if I should I have had a relationship with him for like a few years, like he's a close mate.
Because mum's sister's brother was really close.
Nah.
Laters.
Out.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like you. I never aspire to be like you. I don't like your attributes. You're negative. You're draining. You're gone.
Imagine if you had someone who was the complete opposite. Imagine if you've got someone like Charlie who's able to take me, push me, become better, source of accountability. I think that's a lot better than having some random guy who's just there because your mum's best friend was close and now you have to be close together.
You will attract the people. If you write down the attributes you see in yourself or you want to become, write them down, and let's flip it. Write down the ideal friend, the ideal partner you want to be with, whether that's in a relationship or in a friendship, and the people you want to spend time around. Write them down. What attributes do they have? Are they talkative? Are they a leader? Do they speak with conviction? Do they have ambition? Write all that down. Now, reevaluate your life. Am I all the things on the list?
Yeah.
That is the question you need to ask yourself.
Make it line up.
Make it line up, and eventually the universe, I think, will do its thing.
Yeah.
As long as you're taking action in the law of attraction, there's the word action.
Yeah.
You have to take action, and it will happen.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Brilliant.
First episode.